Baker Mayfield. He reminds me of a shorter version of Brett Favre. He can throw it. He's very confident. He's not afraid whatsoever.
Another guy that isn't getting nearly as much attention as I believe he should be is Florida International receiver T.Y. Hilton. 6 returns over his career, combining kick and punt returns for touchdowns.
He has the mindset, and he has the intelligence, and he understands the offense to a T. Kirk's our quarterback. We could have done a deal right then and got it for long term and been a slam dunk.
Sam is a good football player. The problem is he's not a great football player, and we're bringing so much attention to a guy that, frankly, is a day 3 prospect.
And now, the Instinctive Scouting Podcast, featuring 2-time NFL General Manager Scot McCloughan and NFLDraftScout.com Senior Analyst Rob Rang.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Instinctive Scouting Podcast, starring 2-time NFL General Manager Scot McCloughan and myself, Rob Rang, Senior Analyst for NFLDraftScout.com. Scott, last week we saw some terrific matchups in college and pro football, and so I want to kind of start there right off the bat with just kind of a recap of what we saw at Alabama, LSU, and then I'm going to move a little bit more to the NFL side, but sticking in the state of Louisiana with the Los Angeles Rams traveling to play against the New Orleans Saints. Focusing first on Alabama, LSU. We're going to talk about a lot of different players, a lot of different things here. Just your overall impressions of Alabama. What did you think of Alabama? What did you think of LSU? Is there anything that surprised you in that game?
No, not really. LSU's a really good team. Alabama is exceptional. Yeah. It would but would be amazing if anybody can beat them. They have so much talent on both sides of the ball, it's not even funny. I mean, it's like an NFL team playing in college. Yeah. They're that talented and that good and that big and that fast. It's amazing. It surprised me a little bit, but because LSU, like I said, it's a really good team. But Alabama's exceptional. They're the number 1 team in the country for a reason, and it's not going to change.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think you hear media members. I've said it myself about Alabama. I guess it's been the past years when I've said this, but that I thought they've been good enough where they could actually stay on an NFL field for a quarter or two. And I think sometimes people say that, and then you really look at the talent at the NFL level, and you think, okay, they couldn't really do that, but my goodness, I mean, this Alabama team, we talked about it last week, previewing this showdown with LSU, and you mentioned before about their defensive line specifically, and how you said that maybe half the teams in the NFL, would love to have the talent along their defensive line that Alabama has, and we saw such a terrific example of that in this game. Because I agree with you, Scott. I think that the LSU is among the handful of the best teams in the entire country, and Alabama thoroughly dominated them. I mean, it was just the defensive line talent. Quinnen Williams, the defensive tackle, again, we talked about him in the last episode, but he was terrific. 3.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 10 tackles overall. Showed his speed to the sideline, showed his power. I mean, this is a redshirt sophomore. And they had guys that, true freshmen that coming on playing in that game that, of course, would start everywhere else. So it just really was a very impressive performance. I thought completely all over the field for Alabama. And then talking about LSU a little bit more specifically, we talked about going into the week that we thought the LSU might be able to play with Alabama a little bit, but that we had some concerns about LSU in the passing attack. Would they be able to move the ball? And obviously, considering they were shut out, then obviously they were not able to move the ball as well. But LSU does have talent, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, and it was a big part of what I was focusing on. Is I wanted to see the way that the LSU corner Greedy Williams would match up against Alabama's receivers and their quarterback Tua, because I personally think that Tua is playing as high of a level as any quarterback in college football. I think that he is the easy Heisman trophy candidate at this point. Did you get a chance to see the corner of LSU or any of the other defensive backs in this game? Because I do want to kind of talk about cornerbacks specifically this week.
Yeah, and the thing about LSU, as everybody's well aware that follows college football, especially SEC, they always have corners.
Yeah.
And they're well coached. They got good technique. LSU, like you said, it's not a bad team. They just ran into a buzzsaw. They ran into a team, like you said, the quarterback, Tua, is playing lights out. And they have so much talent, not just on defense, but on offense, that you can't stay with them. But, Greedy is a really good player, and he's going to be a high pick, and he's going to play in the NFL and probably play for a long time. But it's just, the thing about LSU is the fact that, they never, not being mean, but they never really have a quarterback.
Yep.
They never really have a guy, if all of a sudden you're down 2 scores, can throw you back into it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, and Alabama was ready, and they rock and rolled, and they did what they do, and they're going to keep doing what they do, and they're going to be the national champion. I can't see anybody beating them. I cannot see anybody beating them.
No, I have to agree with you. I mean, my preseason pick was Alabama, like a lot of people. I do think that Clemson is the team that has the best chance of matching up, just because I like Clemson's defensive line almost as much as I like Alabama's defensive line. The problem is I don't necessarily like Clemson offensive line as much as I like Alabama's or other, players at other positions. And, I'm excited about the young quarterback, at Clemson. But again, I think the Tua is just playing at a different level. And to me, that's really what separates Alabama this year. We've seen the remarkable talent at all the other positions. And then I got to tip a cap to CBS and Gary Danielson, the color commentator. Had that cool graphic. I don't know if you saw the game live and watching the TV copy, Scott, but they made a mention of the fact that Alabama, during Nick Saban's tenure at Alabama, they have had a first-round pick at every single position except quarterback. And now, of course, Tua is only a true sophomore, so if he is going to be a first-round pick in the NFL, then it would not be the 2019 draft. It would be 2020, 2021, and who knows what's going to happen down the road. But, it really is a reflection on the talent that that Nick Saban has brought into Alabama, and it's the fact that it's at every single position.
Yeah, well, and the thing about it is, Rob, is, the players are players, and that's very, very important. But their coaching staff's so good, and if you give, when all of a sudden we get to the playoff, the 4 teams, and they play somebody, whoever, Clemson or whatever, you give him a couple of weeks to prepare, he's lights out. It's proven out, but there's a lot of good teams out there, and a lot of good teams that on the right day, maybe they get lucky and they can get them. Clemson's D-line's lights out. Yeah. Alabama's D-line's lights out. But Alabama's got backers. They got corners. They got a quarterback. But Clemson still, with the young kid, the true freshman playing quarterback, it's tough for a young guy because they're going to throw so much stuff at you when you give Nick a couple weeks to, scheme. But, they're a good team. I still think Oklahoma's a good team. I really do. Is a different level? Maybe a little bit. But Alabama's just so far ahead of everybody. It's just incredible.
No, it really is. And I'm happy you mentioned some of the other teams out there. Oklahoma, I still think that, the Michigan and Notre Dame, they played exceptionally well. Really had some, especially Michigan, of course. I mean, that was as impressive as a statement. The way they just kind of throttled Penn State was about as impressive as Alabama was going against LSU. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I think that Michigan can play with Alabama, but I was very impressed by Michigan. And they're another team, of course, with their defensive coordinator, Don Brown, that's so well known for producing top talent. And as I mentioned before, I do want to kind of focus in on the cornerback position specifically because, that's why I thought that LSU might be able to play with Alabama, is because I believe that LSU has at least 2 future first-round picks in their secondary, and Greedy Williams, the corner, and then Grant Delpit, the safety. I thought, well, maybe you can kind of take away some of what Tua has been doing to every team in the country. And, of course, they were successful in getting the first interception of Tua's season so far. But other than that, still, Alabama just kind of pulled away. But to me, that's what's interesting, is that Alabama plays kind of the style of football that you and I like to watch, Scott. The kind of grinded out, blue collar, run the football down your throat kind of thing. But there's so many other teams in college football and in the NFL that are going more to this kind of pass happy scheme. And I think that it's making cornerbacks more valuable than ever before. And we saw, to kind of switch over to the NFL side with the Rams and the Saints, we're seeing that. We saw that the Saints, obviously they gave up a lot of points, but at the same time, they do have one of the best young corners in the entire NFL, and Marshon Lattimore, and the success that he had. And that the Rams on the other side have a corner I'm very, very high on, and Marcus Peters, but he's struggling right now and got beat repeatedly in that game. So a former first-round corner getting beat, then Marshon Lattimore for the Saints is having another terrific season. And, of course, you were working with Cleveland this last year, and Denzel Ward being the early pick that he was, number 4 overall. Are you saying the same thing that I am, that as teams on offense are throwing the football more and more, are cornerbacks becoming more and more important because of that?
Well, there's no doubt about it. The thing, about corners, a guy like Richard Sherman, when we were in Seattle, we drafted him, and he's a hands-on guy, and that's how he survives. Nowadays, with the leagues going with officiating and making the penalty calls and all that, is that you can't have any contact after 5 yards, which I know that's the rule, but everybody's always done it.
Yep.
But it's set up so well for offenses, and that's why you're seeing so many points. There's a lot of good corners out there. A lot of good corners. I was lucky to be in Seattle, and we drafted Marcus Trufant. Really good player.
Yeah.
Really good player. You already talked about Ward. Ward's more of the new generation of corners from the standpoint of quickness and speed, and not being a pressed physical guy. Because, what happens is, and the receivers are really good, don't get me wrong. And they're fast, and they're all that, and they're physical and all that, But what's happened is, if you're playing man off or playing zone, whatever, you can't even touch them really. If it is, it's a spot foul or it's a holding call and it's 10 yards and a first down. I would hate to be a corner trying to survive nowadays in the NFL. I would hate it because you're going to lose much more than you win, much more. And it's just the way it is. It's the way the league's gone, and that's how it is. And it's fine because I think the fans really like all the points.
Yeah.
It's like in baseball, they love the home run.
Yep.
It's the same thing. And that's the way the league is right now. But the corner, every year there's going to be good corners to come out, and every year there's going to be good NFL corners that play in the league. It's just a tough position, and you can't get upset about it because it is what it is, and it's the same around the league. But you're always looking for them, and it's tough. It's and every year there's guys go in the first round. Don't get me wrong, second round, third round, but it's always a tough position to find to come in and be a player. Denzel Ward, for example, like you said about Cleveland, has done a really good job, but he's not Richard Sherman from the standpoint of size and press and physical. Brandon Browner, size, physical, they're different animals, and that's and it's not taking a shot at anybody, It's just the game's changed so much.